Hey.
You got on quick. Sometimes it just takes forever to get everything.
No, I kept watching and I was like, I always get nervous that I'm gonna miss it or not see something or so I'm always like, is it time? Is it time?
We made it.
Yay!
Well, I was just saying that I actually don't have a physical copy, so pretend I'm holding one. Maybe do you have one?
Well, let's see. Here we go.
I love
Yay!
that cover.
Thank you. I actually do my own covers, so I was pretty happy with it myself.
Well,
I had started out with like a whole different one, and I was like, it just wasn't feeling it. And then I did that one. I was like, yep, that's it. That's it.
yeah, it's the perfect vibes. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much for joining me tonight. We're going to jump right in. Hello, everyone watching now and later. We're chatting with Jill about Devil's Thirst. So I'm going to have you just kind of give us a general spoiler-free-ish synopsis.
Okay, yeah, we've got let's see. I'm always like, it's so hard to do this stuff. I looked at the anyway. So you have a ballerina, a young woman who has been noticing that she's got like a stalker, somebody's following her, but she has kind of some hidden stuff in her past, and so she thinks that's what it is. And when a new guy moves in next door, she doesn't realize that he's the one who has been stalking her. And he kind of moves things along real fast and is like, you, I think I want you. And things get very heated and with a lot of suspense and twists and all that very quickly. So
Yeah, you did a great job.
I should have like had one of my little. I have all these cute, perfect little summaries written down, and I'm like, should I bring that? Nah, I'm good. Like, there's a boy and a girl.
There you go. That
Yeah.
works. Well, where did you get the inspiration for this series and specifically this book? Like, why, like, dark mafia with a ballerina? Like, how does that all come together?
Um, You know, mine all kind of end up feeding off of each other. So, for those that have read The Byrne Brothers, which is this Devil's Thirst is a kind of spin-off, or this series is a spin-off. I have it in theory, like I could have made it, I guess, a continuation, but one, I do not have nearly the attention span. Like if I see a really long series, I'm like, no, I can't. That's a commitment, and I can't afford that kind of commitment. Um, but also, like, it really is going to be, this series is more about the men of this Italian Moretti group. So there's a lot of ties to the old book, but it's kind of separate. So, but these characters were originated in the other books. So it wasn't so much that I was like, I think I want to do a ballerina stalker book. Um, it was, I want Sante to have his story because he was not very appealing in Silent Vows when we first meet him. Like, I myself, I agree. Like, I was like, oh, this guy's kind of annoying. But I love being able to like make someone grow and like redemption stories and all of that. And so I just really love the idea of having this character who was kind of pathetic at first become this really intense, interesting character. And I had no idea that Amelie was going to be who. I didn't expect her. First, she started out as um, a missing person in, let's see, actually, it's Corrupted Union, the second book. Like just a mention of her as this waitress that was missing. And it just, even when I did that, I didn't mean for it to become her. It just like evolves. So this is a really long, complicated answer. Stuff just kind of somehow I'm like, oh, I could do it this way and that, and then I don't know, it just happens.
No, that's great. I think you're right in saying you can get overwhelmed when you see how many books are in a series because I like I picked up this one because I was really interested in the tropes and I hadn't read the other series. And so I got little snippets, but it wasn't enough to make me feel like I missed out. But it was also enough to be like, okay, it would be cool to go back and read.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor
I
there.
was
But
kind of worried about that because I was like, okay, there is a lot of backstory for this to be a first in series, because there are, yeah, there is a lot of stuff that went on. So I was like, I really hope everyone like that it's clear enough that someone that hasn't read any of them can pick it up and not be like, oh my God, there's so much missing here or something. So it seems like people have been okay with it, but that was always kind of a worry of mine. So
well, where did the title come from?
um I wanted something that expressed his incessant craving that he has for her, that he can't, like 4 years go by since he first met her and he just can't let her go. Um and I definitely wanted to show that he isn't like that, he's not a nice guy. He's nice to her, but he's not a nice guy, but this is the one thing that he can't just do without. Like he's got to have her.
Well, they both have very distinct personalities and voices. So, how do you approach writing dual POV?
Um, I I don't know. I have always had conversations in my head, and even like from another person's perspective, like in practicing, like okay, I got to talk to this teacher, and like I have an internal narrator, and it is always going. Like there are always words happening in my head constantly, and so like I will just have random conversations with myself in my head all the time. And so, and generally, I like to try and just do one chapter a day. So that I think that helps. Like, okay, today this is what we're doing. This is who this is the mind that we're in, and um, I don't know. I think that kind of helps. I just channel that person, I guess.
So, do you kind of like outline what chapter is going to be told by which perspective, or is it just kind of as you feel it?
I am a plotter. I spend like a couple of weeks plotting out everything. I do end up straying from that, especially near the ending. Like this book, definitely like how things were exposed at the end, how things were resolved. That was not how it was going to go. Freya, the dog, was completely like just popped in there one day. I was like, oh well, that I didn't see that coming. Okay. Which is kind of funny because I do spend so much time like planning everything out, but that's how I like to find all the little nuggets from past stories and stuff like that to really blend in. Is I got to spend some time plotting that all out. So
Very cool. I'm always so interested to hear because, some people are like, no, it's just as it comes to me, and then some people are very specific about outlining it, and I'm always amazed either way.
I don't know how complete pantsers do it. Like to just write, I think I would just stare at the screen. Like I don't know how they do
I know. I
it.
feel like I think that would just be a little overwhelming for me.
Exactly. It would be for me too.
So, something that was heavily featured in this book was this idea of family dynamics,
Mhm.
and both characters have pretty difficult backgrounds with their family dynamics, which kind of leads them to be at arm's length with the relationships that they do have. So, what made you choose to incorporate this perspective? And was it like very intentional, or is that something that kind of came out as you were writing?
Well, the whole like all of my mafia books are very much centric on family. um I think to me that's what a lot of like when people do read a whole bunch of them and start to learn this larger family aspect. I think that's part of the thing that really has captured some of my like diehard readers. I have in some of the other books, there was this one I didn't really, I had Gloria in there, but she's not one of the spunky ones. I have a couple of really like spry octogenarian grandmas that are, like running the family, not like behind the scenes, that are drinking people under the table and really, kooky kind of stuff. And all of it really, like so much of it is about the families, all of the books. And I think there's always some degree of problem with that because who doesn't? Like that's life. So, yeah.
Did you have a specific like relationship outside of the main one that you enjoyed writing?
Hmm. The sisters, definitely the sisters. Yeah. Because
Yeah, I
that,
thought that was so special.
yeah, well, and I think especially because Lena has had her book and you could see it from their relationship from her perspective too already. And then to have it from the little sister, like it's a whole different kind of perspective on it.
So I wanted to talk about this idea of toxic relationships. And obviously, like in dark romance, we understand that that's just kind of a part of it. But there's a very specific part where Sante kind of pushes back on this idea of like what a toxic relationship is and basically just says like what's toxic for some people or what they might view as toxic isn't the same for others. So I'm interested to see what you think about how that kind of translates like off page into the real world.
Yeah, the older I get, um, the more I don't believe there is such a thing as normal in really anything. Whether it's someone being like what is normal, what is neurodivergent, like what I mean, everything is a spectrum, and I think that you have different um, different needs in a relationship from different people, and I think even couples or people in a relationship will have different needs from that same relationship at different points throughout it, and so I just I mean, obviously if there's like violence or something like that, I wouldn't ever condone something like that. But when you have someone who, has experienced neglect and she really appreciates someone being with someone that is intensely protective of her and wants her around and all that, it suits both their needs. And if it suits both their needs and they are happy like that, is is that so bad? Now, yeah, you got to watch out, like real life. I mean, you can only take that so far, but I felt like I tried to make it work in this book. That's one of the things I'm real big on is being believability, like that the relationships. I mean, like if I like Silent Vows is a arranged marriage. None of my books are like old school, like the you know I don't the old traditional, like I try to make it something that could actually happen today. Like there's legitimate reasons that are believable that things happen. And so that's something too with the relationships. I want it to be believable that this is why she's sticking around and this is why he wants her and this is why it works for them. And you're like, okay, I can buy that.
Well, and I mean, I do think it's important because in the book you do a good job of illustrating like, okay, we're recognizing that this may be not great. We're also going to decide and work through it on our own.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on our own together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I've got ones where, I mean, definitely I've got characters in books where at the end, like whoever needs to is going to therapy. Like that definitely happens in my books. Like I have to sometimes even step back and be like, okay, it's a book. It can be a little a little out there. Like we don't there doesn't have to be all like perfectly healthy and, so yeah.
Well, I mean, it's fiction and again, it's like dark romance. So like there are things that you just know are going to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So intimacy and like especially Amelie's journey with it, that's a big theme. And so I wanted to know why it was important for you to tell that part of her story because like and as people know as they read it and like read triggers and stuff, there are like triggering parts to her past. So why was that important for you?
I think part of it is that believability. Like I didn't think someone in her situation, like that's just how it struck me she would kind of evolve. Um and I kind of like that there's problems sometimes, like that, she she has trouble with reaching a finish line. You know, they statistics talk about how whether you've had trauma or not, how common that kind of stuff is, and that there are some women who can't. And I'm like, just because it's a romance book doesn't mean now. And I get like, we all want to have it end up being, you know, a certain amount of, it has to be fantasy. So yeah, at the end of the day, like she's gonna get hers and it's gonna be great. Um, but to know that there are problems and we all, we face challenges, I think it's so great, especially for women, to know that, like, yeah, everything's not just perfect for everyone. Like it's not just all easy.
Yeah, I love that. That's something I have talked about with other people before. It's just like this idea of like having real experiences that readers have experienced
Mhm.
while in real life and just kind of being that relatability like you've mentioned, and I think that was done really well here. Not that
Yes.
you need my affirmation
No,
on that.
I'm happy to. That was it was I kind of went out a little bit on a limb because I wasn't sure. I don't know. That's not something I've seen a whole lot of, and so I was like, okay, we're gonna try this out.
Yeah. So I found the story, and you can correct me if you feel like I'm wrong, but I found it to be one more of like survival and resilience. Both main characters, they've endured lots of trauma and grief, but they persevere.
Mhm.
And I want to know like why this is so significant to include. And I know you're probably going to mention like that's real life and that's what happens with people. Is there anything else that kind of was in your mind while writing?
Hmm. You know, I trying to think if I've really thought about it as survival. Um, and I can see why you say that. Definitely, I guess. I don't know. I kind of feel like it, like like in my head they were in limbo, like the two of them just in limbo until they kind of found their counterpart, and then it's like, okay, this is how life should be. Like I can go from here. Like now I can grow. I can. So yeah, I don't know. I yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I just write it what the characters tell me to write.
No, that's great. No, and I think that's part of where I was thinking with along those lines too, is like just day to day, getting through, surviving, making it
Mhm.
happen, and then finding someone who is like, oh, that this is the point of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
what did you find to be the most challenging part while writing this book?
Hmm. This one was pretty easy breezy. I don't know if it's because I've known these characters now for a while because they've been in the other books, that it always does help quite a bit for me to, like, I'll have some problem. I'll be like, okay, I've got this character and this happens, but I'm not sure what. And my husband or my best friend will be like, well, they could do this. And I'm just like, they would never do that. Like, do you even know them? Like, that's not even an option. And it's just, I've got an idea of who they are, how they act and all of that. And so this one really unfolded very easily for me. Although I will, like I said, the ending ended up completely changing for me. I had a kind of an idea of how things were going to go, and like that just, I just, like you said, I had to make we so yeah, I'm like trying to say stuff without giving anything away. But I we want our heroes to be the saviors, but also I am such a like feminist. I'm like, oh, I really want her to save herself, and I'm like, yeah, but part of the fantasy is him saving. So I ended up incorporating a little more of her saving herself than I had initially planned to. Like I just couldn't help myself, but I wanted to show his support and all of that. So like he's a big part of it, but um anyway.
I think both things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
If readers were to take just one thing away from Devil's Thirst, what would you want that to be?
Hmm. I guess do what's right for you, find love and happiness where it suits you and don't worry about what is normal or expected or shoulds or any of that. It's all about what works for you.
Well, I'm going to pivot a little bit to more of process. So, as an indie author, you're kind of in charge of it all. You got to do the writing, the marketing, and you mentioned designing covers, which is actually something I was going to ask about. Obviously, stuff like this, engaging with readers, and then of course that little thing, your personal life. What's that? But how do you do it all? And I do want to dive a little bit more into the covers because I think that's something people are really interested in. We don't really get a lot of behind the scenes on how that happens. So anything you're
Yeah.
willing to share.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I, yeah, I work way more than I should. And I'm getting to the point where I really need to have like full-time assistant help. And I've got a best friend that we've kind of been toying with the idea of her doing that, but there's, kind of a timing until I know if that's going to happen or not. I've been reluctant to like hire someone else, but um, I spend a whole lot of time, and we recently just opened up like I had a website shop, but we went ahead and did TikTok shop, which is a whole other commitment with the shipping because you got to do it really quickly and all that. And but my husband, we were fortunate enough that he had kind of the ability to do that in addition to his own work. So um, that on top of everything, which I told him, I was like, look, I can't, this is yours then. Like if we're doing this, this is you because I can't do anymore. I mean, and with like with having a book release on the 27th right after Christmas, like I work Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, like I was doing ad prep and all kinds of stuff every day. So um but yeah, I don't have the others here. Now, of course, my man covers are a model, but I definitely wanted to find um, the like the wording, made sure it looks kind of cohesive with everything. And I actually, this guy, the image I had bought it like a year ago, and the model is very distinct. I mean, and there's several of them that are like people definitely know. And then there was a book that came out recently with him on there, and I was just so worried about reader confusion and even people saying that I had copied or anything like that. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I still use this image? Do I not? And I stuck the hoodie on him. He didn't have a hoodie on him in the picture, in the original picture. And I was like, you know what? That's perfect. And then it really changed the vibe. And so that kind of stuff, like um, I don't know. I just love playing with all the when I first started out, I didn't really know who to go to for graphics, and it was like, okay, I just let me just try Photoshop, and I would spend a lot of time on YouTube watching videos, and I never, I get it would have been easier to do like Canva or something for the little graphics, but somehow my brain, I was like, let's just go all the way hard, I'm kind of an all-in person. So I did Photoshop and I got to where I just really enjoyed it. Like I love spending time. I mean, all of my own swag, images, graphics, all of it is mine. So, oh, I don't have, like I should have brought Snip over here. Yeah, that's kind of become my, like, I put, like murder mysteries on the TV and I sit and do my little Photoshop and make stickers, and that's my fun time.
That's
So I enjoy it.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you said that you designed the discrete cover as well. Did you
Hmm.
use Photoshop for that?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, so the lady, the ballerina, she was like, she had a different background, and the flower I put in there, I wanted a little pop of color. Um, then there's like the lines and all. There's a lot of different backgrounds and textures, and you can do these layering where it sends the light through. So like the way her arm and the lettering interplays, a lot of it is playing with all of that stuff and seeing how you want it to come together. But I just have a lot of fun with that now, and everyone has loved this cover so much. It's made me really nervous for the next one. I'm like, okay, it's got to live up to this one.
It's a really great cover.
Thank you, thank you.
You you mentioned the release date, December, it was December 27th. There were like a lot of like indie books coming out around that time and then right after like New Year. So, how are those typically chosen?
Oh, a release date?
Yeah.
Um, Mine. This was supposed to come out in October, and my last release, the one before, did not do what I was hoping. And so I spent a lot of time. I actually called up S.J. Tilley because she had released a book really close in time to mine. And, she hit like 6 or 7 in the store. And I was like, okay, SJ, walk me through. Like we did a Zoom for 2 hours. And I was like, what are you doing that I'm not doing? Because this did not happen for me. And I spent a lot of time really thinking about the book itself and the marketing and just everything, and what could I do better to give my next book more of a chance to get seen. Um, and so I decided to push the date back. So it was originally supposed to be October, and then I was like, okay, if I go any further into January, like it starts getting awfully long, but I didn't want to do it at Christmas, like before Christmas. So it kind of just was like, okay, we're going to try this. And I was really worried about it. And some people were like, actually, we've had our very best releases, during that time. And it really, I feel like people have been really receptive. There's not a whole lot of like, oh, I'm broke now, or, um, I think readers going to read what, no matter when it is.
Well, and it does, I think, help when you have that for a lot of people, that kind of like dead week between Christmas and New Year where
Exactly.
people are just
Yeah. Yeah, they have a
that's
lot of time to kind of fill, and like, you got to detox after family time, and you're like, okay, let's escape for a few minutes.
well, what is next for you and this series?
So, um, if you, yeah, when you read this one, you get the little teaser at the end about Tommy, and that's not a secret. His book is next. Um, I don't have a title yet. I don't have a whole, I have a very rudimentary outline, and I'm supposed to this week start really fleshing all of that out. But his will be next, and I'm thinking early June. I I have found one that my brain, I'm not a fast writer. I know that. Like that didn't take any finding. I knew that. I'm not one of these people that can pop out a book every month. Um, but also I've found that if I give myself more time to really make the book all that it can be, and the time then to market it properly, I feel like it just serves everyone better. And the sweet spot seems to be like 2 a year for me. I could squeeze in a third one if I have the time. But like you mentioned, I do have a family. I have 3 kiddos that are all teenagers and I've got one graduating in May. And so, yeah, I'm like, oh, you know what? 2 a year is right now is about all I can do.
I mean, that's more than I'm doing, so that's amazing.
Well, and I'm hoping, there are a good number of people that this is their first introduction to me, and I love that, and I love that this world is connected in a way that, while you're waiting on the next one, people have time to go back and check out some of the previous books, and I think, if you like that one, probably you're going to like the others. So,
That's amazing. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to talk about Devil's Thirst.
yeah,
It's available now, so if you're watching this, it's available, and you should go read it. But Jill, thank you so much for joining me.
thank you.
It's been so fun having you.
Yes, absolutely. I enjoyed it. I love how you're like, and go, and go, and go, because that's how I am, except it doesn't seem like it because I blabbered a whole lot, but usually I'm very on
You're,
top of things.
you're here to blabber.
All right. You have a good night.
Thanks. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.